Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of Sphere of Being, which is all about caring for those that care for others. Because, as we know, as I always say, we need to put our oxygen masks on first to be able to be overflowing so that we can help others without ourselves getting drained. And I know that I've been guilty in the past on many occasions of trying to people please, which isn't so great. And I'm learning now not to do that and to be uplifted and enlightened is absolutely fantastic. And each time we're on these episodes, I try and have guests which can help us to look at how we look after ourselves and those around us in the best possible way. And today I have Shannon O'Flaherty. She is an absolutely wonderful lady. She grew up around the Manhattan area in Brooklyn. She has traveled to numerous countries, Spain, UK, Argentina, Buenos Aires. It's absolutely a wonderful story that she has. And she has studied clinical transactional psychology, transformation, sorry. And she's also studied organizational transformational psychology, if I've got that right. She has a TV, would you believe it? A TV show coming out next month. It's a digital offering, and she will be looking at transformation that is coming from a birth trauma so that you can have birth trauma and then be brilliant because we often don't know, well, we don't know really how it is that birth trauma affects our lives, our relationships, because of how it imprints itself on us. And this is such a wonderful, magical thing that she's doing. The other thing is that Shannon has studied shaman medicine with some of the greats in Peru and has a wonderful spiritual element. And having spoken to her before, this lady just it has a heart of gold. She just gives and gives and gives. And it's just wonderful to have her on the show, have her talk with you about her life, about what she's doing, very much about what she's doing, because I know you'll be really interested in it, and how that we can be the best that we can be, directed from anything that perhaps has happened in birth. And let's face it, lots of trauma is often around us at that time, and we carry it in our subconscious, which is kept in our bodies, and then it manifests in all sorts of ways. So, Shannon, I know you can talk very eloquently on your subject, and it's wonderful to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Deborah. It's really great to be here.
Oh, it's lovely. And all these wonderful, beautiful paintings and pictures and the things on your wall. Could you explain just a little bit about this? Because I know that it has some wonderful significance.
Yes, well, when I finally discovered Incan Peruvian shamanism, right before I was 40, that sort of answered all of the unasked questions in my life, and everything clicked into place. So even though I work as a coach, as a therapeutic holistic coach, and I work with energy medicine and healing and some psychology, really, I love ritual and I love ceremony and I love connecting to the earth. And so I figured the artwork should reflect my true path. And because I'm dealing with birth trauma, these paintings were done by a friend of mine, Nell Cook, the three phases of women. So you have the child and the mother and the grandmother and the three phases of men, because I thought that was relevant to talk about birth trauma. And my main power animal, because in most shamanic traditions, we believe that we have archetypal energies with us. So my main power animal is a big black jaguar, although I have many hummingbirds and geckos and bees and other things. So these are just some of my favorite things that I like to have that reflect the energy that I'm holding and giving out to people.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know that we're all incredibly intrigued now to find out more. Shamanism is, I think, becoming more well known, especially through the internet and through podcasts. In fact, actually, I think there's a guy called Derek, and he just married he married a princess.
Mm.
I think it might have even been of Norway. And Shaman Derek, I think, is his name. And it's very interesting over the eras how we reflect in these wonderful ways about different medicines that are ancient in tradition, very much earth-centered, holistic, spiritual ways of bringing together all of those wonderful energies that we have to help the body self-heal.
Mhm.
And I'd love if you could to just go into a little bit of detail as to how you started off in life and what brought you into the work that you now do.
Okay, well, that's a loaded question. So, I'm not going to talk about it in order. I'll answer your question at the end.
Yeah, please do. Feel free.
The
Absolutely.
reason why I switched to focusing on birth trauma, which doesn't really change the way that I work or the aspect of my work, is because it's been right in front of my face. I've been in private practice for over 20 years. And what keeps coming to me is people keep telling me about their difficult births coming into the world, that they were either a C-section baby, or the mother died in childbirth, or they were born in a war zone, or they had lots of physical complications, or their mother was a crack addict. I mean, I've heard all sorts of stories, or they lost a twin in utero. There's so many different things, and it's been right here all these years, including my own birth. I had a difficult entry into the world. Um, my mother had to stand on her head every hour on the hour when she was pregnant with me to tip her uterus back because it was tipped out and I was basically on my way out. And she had started to miscarry about 3 months in, and we're pretty certain that I lost a twin sister during that time. And so this is something that I finally found out part of my birth story when I was 11, but the second part I didn't find out until I was 37 when I was studying transactional analysis. And they had asked us on the first day to write down what our mothers felt when they were pregnant with us. And people were like, well, how do I know? I'm not my mother. They said, just tune in. Now, I live in England. My mother happened to be visiting me then. And I wrote something like, I'm not remembering now, something like feeling trapped and alone, something like that. And I came home and I asked my mother before I showed her my paper, I'm like, Mom, how did you feel when you were pregnant with me? And she said the exact sentence that I had written on this piece of paper. And I was really surprised. Like, okay, I mean, I knew some of the story, but not all of it. So we talked about why she felt that way, and it was for different reasons than I had thought. But we had a big talk, and then she said, maybe you need to hear the rest of your birth story. And I was like, what? I knew about you standing on your head. And she said, yeah, well, when you were finally born, you started to come out really quickly. I was late, 2 weeks late, but then you started to come out really quickly and they didn't believe me in hospital. And I was like, I've just done this 19 months ago because my older sister is 19 months older. And so I was coming out. So I was born on the stretcher, on the trolley on the way to delivery. And a nurse panicked and tried to hold me in. Yeah, I know. Like, let's hold in the baby. Let's not let the baby out, right? Yeah. So you can imagine, just imagine. And so as a result, I swallowed a lot of gunk, a lot of the afterbirth, whatever. And I was very, very sick for the first 6 months of my life. The doctors worried, is she going to be okay? Is she going to have nervous system disorders, whatever? I couldn't digest any food, any milk. They finally found goat's milk. My mother wasn't into breastfeeding. So if you just look at all of those elements of coming in when you're born, that sets up your imprint of the world. So, trusting authority? No, not so much. Like small enclosed places? Not so much, right? You can imagine why. And then on top of it all, because I was born all 10 pounds of me, my poor little mother, jaundiced and sick, they didn't put me on my mother right away, which is essential. by the way. Anybody out there pregnant, having babies, get them to put your baby on you. Really important. I was taken and immediately put into an incubator for 2 days. So I have the baby felt unwanted, abandoned, alone, cold, not touched, not held, even though intellectually I've always known that my parents wanted me and loved me. And my mother worked hard to have me and keep me. But that baby didn't feel that after being trapped in utero because I couldn't get out because she was standing on her head and having already lost a twin sister. Then I was trapped. And then it's like, what? So now I'm trapped and now I can't get out. And now you don't want me? So imagine what that sets up emotionally. Now, this is not on the conscious level. So I grew up with really interesting parents, very colorful. I believe you've met my father, and larger than life. And for what they knew love to be, they loved us as well as they could love us from the era and generation that they came from. And they were good. And I had generally a happy childhood, generally. But when I studied transactional analysis, I learned how easy it is to screw up your kids without trying because of the default programs that we've learned from our own parents, from what they say, from what they do, from what we model, and from what they don't say, and from what they don't do, and from what we perceive. And so most of us grown-ups are basically going through life with this very childlike perception of what it all means because we've made up those decisions when we're in our early formative years. So the beyond birth trauma starts with our ancestors because we hold 7 generations of cellular memory through us. And they set the imprint for what our parents experienced, and then our parents set the imprints for us. And then we decide how it is without having the bigger picture and all of the answers. And then we go forth into the world, kind of making it a self-fulfilling prophecy. So by the time I got to shaman school, I just I used to wake up feeling, well, really before that, when I started transactional analysis, I used to wake up feeling despairing and I felt guilty all the time. And I felt like I was a bad person and I just wasn't happy, even though I had a beautiful husband and beautiful kids and a nice house. And on the surface, everything was great. But inside myself, I felt so unworthy, so not enough, really. And it was invisible stuff and I didn't know why I felt it, and I just thought there has got to be more to life than this. So I went back to school to study. It changed my relationship with my kids immediately because the sarcasm stopped. My poor children learned sarcasm before they could walk, so I cut that out. And I started to change the way I was much more present for my children instead of, little kids are going, "Mommy, mommy," and you're like, "Uh-huh, uh-huh, yeah, just a minute, just a minute." I stopped doing that and I would turn to my children and really be present with them. And thank God I got to my kids in their formative years so that I could really impact how they've grown into beautiful men. So the things I started to study was interesting, corporate training, using a lot of my knowledge and energy to wake up people who weren't interested. And that's when I went to shaman school and everything changed because I thought, wow, now I can really help people because I can help change the energy around things because everything in the world is energy. Everything is our relationship to energy, from our inanimate objects to our kids, to our friends, to our community, to the things that we enjoy doing. It's all our relationship. And that relationship starts from birth. That's your imprint. So it all kind of, all the work I've done, all the studies, all the clients, it's all just come into a big spiral and went, oh, it's all about that birth imprint. Why can't you earn money now? You said something in the opening, how you're a please others person. Well, I mean, that's our first thing that we do as babies. We're going to please our parents. We need to because we need them to survive. We need to believe our parents because our parents cannot lie to us because they're our truth when we're babies. But little kids know, Mommy, what's the matter? Nothing, darling. Everything's fine. The kid knows because the kid is still wide awake. The veil has not closed. It's all energy. And the children feel that energy, and we do. And then we're taught how not to feel the energy. And then that early veil in early childhood closes. And then we're here thinking, why are we here? What are we here for? Oh, we have to follow all the rules? Hmm? Really? Rules that don't make sense? We have to do it because our parents say we have to, even though that's not what I feel inside myself that I want to do, that is right for me. And so we have this big conflict being created right from the get-go. And it travels with us all the way through life. I've been unpicking it for years, and it gets more and more fascinating. And I mean, some people have real complications. I had some, but some people have awful things. They're born into awful parents, sadness, anger, destruction, abuse, drugs, know. So you can
Yeah.
imagine. And just
Oh,
think, everybody think about
yeah.
what was your story. It matters.
I mean, it travels back and it travels forward and it travels around because time isn't linear. And I've been doing some energy healing work with a lady who is just brilliant, Marion Egan, and she does energy cards. And in fact, actually, we were just on Zoom this morning, and she's realized when she tapped into my energy that, especially on my father's side, because my father was abusive, and I believe strongly that he was abused. And then she comes back and she goes, "This is fifth, sixth generation that she's getting intuitive energy from those ancestors." And that born in at the cellular level, as you say, the more right-minded and right being we can be in harmony with the world and its energy, we can change the future, we can change the now, and we can change the past.
Absolutely. I just was very blessed to go listen to Anita Morjani speak in Manchester. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's an amazing Indian woman who all of her wounding started with her father. And she didn't want to be suppressed. She didn't want to be married early on. She wanted to go and do her own thing, right? She was a being like the rest of us who had her own purpose and wanted to do it. But the more you suppress anger and upset and are not heard and are not seen, this is how illness starts. In my world, and disease and illness starts right here because you start to think negative thoughts or you're angry and you push things down instead of feeling your feelings and dealing with them and healing them. And so she got really sick. She got fourth stage cancer and beyond, tumors everywhere, couldn't hold her head up. And the doctors called in her family to say goodbye. And she did die. She went into a coma and then she died, medically died. And she said, so then I was looking at the room and my family, and I could see down the hall and I could see everything all at once. And there was my father, like this spiritual essence, not his face, not visually, but like the spiritual essences make themselves known to you. And I loved this because I've seen some spirit, and this was just confirmation for me. And he said, I love you. I love you unconditionally. I'm sorry. I know I was the source of your wounding. They chatted for a while and healed their relationship. And he said, you could die now, or you could go back because your husband's soul purpose is connected to yours and he won't fulfill his soul purpose unless you go back. And she said, yeah, but look at me. I'm really sick. He said, oh, you'll heal miraculously if you go back. She was like, okay. So she went back and came back to life. And in 4 days, she was miraculously healed. No more tumors. The doctors are like, this is impossible. So she took us on a guided meditation to go up and meet spirit, which was very, very moving. It's not my first time. I go up and talk to spirit all the time because often when I'm working with a client, I go like this because I hold my clients' hands. They put their hands there. So our energies are talking to each other. When you do your own healing work, you are healing your ancestral line. And oftentimes, when I'm working with a client, I'll hear an ancestor say, thank you. Thank you. Just the other day, I was working with a beautiful woman, and we went up her mother's ancestral line, mother, grandmother, great grandmother, great, 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 up, up, up. And as she was doing the work, I could see each generation just going like this and holding her and hugging her and bringing her in. And it was so moving. It was so moving because sometimes you're wounding isn't even yours. It's something that's traveled down the generations. And I know that must be a strange concept for people to hear. But if we're holding 7 generations of cellular memory in us, like, where do you think prejudice comes from? We learned that. Fear of God, we learned that because our ancestors, they didn't have the internet and Google like we do to answer all of the questions. They had to be pioneers and break through everything. And then they had to protect their land, protect their home. So any newcomer that came in was suspicious, right? They had to work really hard just to survive. And so many people never think about how you got here now with all of our mod cons, It was our ancestors that set the stage for us. It's been scientifically proven that the I'll say men, mainly it was prisoners of war, uh, even though they were suffering, they were not in suffering mode. They were in survival mode. And so their suffering was kind of suppressed. And often that goes down and skips a generation. So it doesn't go into their kid, but it might go into the grandchild. And the grandchild grows up in this modern world suffering. And they don't know why, because there hasn't been enough actual things to suffer from. And it could be that they're holding that imprint from the grandfather. It's really fascinating. I'm not making this up. I see this all the
Absolutely. And
time.
the thing is, as well, I had a thing in my family that twins were relatively commonplace from my mother's lineage.
Mhm.
And they always said it skips a generation and then it comes again.
Mm.
Now, if we take that as something that everybody goes, yeah, that's kind of normal. That kind of this with the energetic things and everything else. And they've done I'm not a great fan of, well, I'm not a fan of animal testing on animals, but
No.
they did something where they did with something with rats where every time they smelt a particular smell or ate a particular food, they gave them a little electric shock. Now they found that I think it was almost 5 generations after that their offspring would naturally not go to that food or that smell. They
Wow.
were like, they didn't want it. If they were given the choice, they'd have something else because it's learned. Because if we're thinking about the survival on the savannah, when a saber-toothed tiger comes along, the ancestor that realized, well, if you get over here and run up there and jump over there, it can't get you. And it's very important for that to be passed on for the protection of the offspring. So when we're thinking it about that, to know how to get away from predators, it's not really surprising how then that transforms itself into us with an energetic knowing, like people with music in families. They're all really good musicians or really good sports people. And often there might be an odd one out in the family, like, why didn't I get that gene? Because I don't not good at music. It's funny, isn't it, how it runs in families that children are naturally gifted in certain areas. So in that sense, to think even the way in which we are familiarly, how we look, we are carrying so much. And it's wonderful the work that you do that can help people normalize what could have been classed just a few years ago as, oh, that's mumbo jumbo,
Hmm.
and not taken seriously. There's a whole raft now of where science has finally and is finally catching up with what ancient traditions have known for eons. And they're
Hmm.
actually saying, you know what, there's basis of truth in this. This
Yeah.
we're now scientifically proving, i.e., with the rats and other things that we do. And as you say, often it's in plain sight, it's hiding in plain sight. And it
Yeah.
just takes, and this is why I believe that thoughts are so important, because the collective thoughts have an impact. And as you were
Oh,
saying,
absolutely.
yeah, and you were saying about
Absolutely.
prisoners of war, that will have gone out into like the energetic field, and it will affect far more than what we realize. It won't just be contained to those people.
Well, everything is connected. I mean, I think Lynn, um, name gone, Lynn, anyway, she wrote a book called Zero Point Field. Lynn McTaggart wrote a book called Zero Point Field and many others. And she talks about the grid that connects us all. And that's been proven scientifically for years, the butterfly concept, that if a butterfly starts to flap its wings in one place, it sends out a wave of energy. And they do. The monkeys start to clean their food in one island, and thousands of islands away, the monkeys start to clean their food too. So any thought, any word, any action that we put out into the universe, I mean, this is where the whole law of attraction um, philosophy comes from, is what we're going to attract back to us. And that's why they've even done tests when hundreds and hundreds of people all pray together. I think it was in Washington, D.C. Many years ago, maybe it was in the 80s or 90s. They all prayed together and their crime rate in the city reduced. So there's power in numbers. And with the study of epigenetics and how things are passing down through time and history, it's absolutely fascinating. And you can say it's mumbo jumbo if you want, but go out and read some books. There's some like amazing information out there on the studies of healings and how your thoughts are so important and powerful and empowering because your thoughts are energy, really. So if you clean up your thoughts, and if you clean up your words, and if you clean up your actions, then you're going to start receiving something back. Now, where it gets tricky is that if you have beliefs that you're not good enough, or that you're not deserving, or that you're not worthy, or that you're a bad person, blah, 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 all these subconscious things that we've learned in our early formative years, they can be sending out another vibration of I'm not good enough. That's why things don't manifest as quickly. So this is where you need to get to the deep roots. If you get to the root of what your issues are and heal the root, your belief systems stack up on top of each other like an upside down pyramid. So when you clear the bottom belief, all of the other beliefs fall away. Where it gets interesting is that these beliefs up here might be part of another upside down pyramid, which is why you can do this work all of the time to clear your energy field. The shamans believe that that any from any lifetime, any trauma, any bad thing that's ever happened to you is etched into the layers of your auric field, like etchings in a glass. And that if you clear up your energy field, you can change your destiny. You can change the way you die. You can change the way you live. You can change your path. You can change your way forward. Now, I know this to be true because I can't tell you the last time I woke up feeling despairing and guilty and bad and all of that. I mean, I can't even remember. It was so many years ago because I started to do the work in earnest. And what I'm working with is people's neural pathways. They're like the highways in your brain. So if you imagine a stream trickling down a mountain, every time it rains, the water is going to go into that stream, and that stream's going to get bigger into a river, into a rushing river until there's a landslide. And that's what our neural pathways are like, because you spend your whole life going down this same response. They hold your habitual behavioral responses. So your thoughts, your words, your actions. And at the end of that neural pathway is a receptor that holds it in place, which is why it's so difficult for us to change our behavior. Like I use diets as a good example. You're on a diet, you probably shouldn't be going to the cookie jar, but you're on your way anyway, even though intellectually you know that's not going to work, but you're stuck in that repeating pattern. And we can have repeating patterns and triggers around absolutely everything in life. This is why relationships break down. This is why you can't lose weight. This is why you have health problems. This is why you can't earn money. This is why you keep having car accidents, whatever it is. It could be anything in the world if there's a repeating pattern. And what I've found is that people don't connect the dots of circumstances and events in their lives. And they tell me this, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's the same pattern as that. And they're like, oh, wow, because it's the same, different situation entirely, but it's the same energy imprint keeps coming through your life. So when you clear the neural pathways, you take that receptor off so that you can build a new neural pathway so that you have the best chance of creating a new energy imprint for yourself. You have to practice. The client, it's not a magic pill. You have to do the work yourself. And this is where people say, oh, it doesn't work because they're not engaged. They're not in pain enough to help themselves, basically, is what it comes down to.
Now, I love this. And I'm just going to say something here. I used to be a real disaster area around losing my keys all the time because I just put them down somewhere, and glasses as well was another one. And if I can't see, I can't find my glasses. So guess what? I got a little dish, and every night I put my car keys and everything in that dish. It was something that I wasn't doing before. I was just leaving them everywhere and forgetting where I put them, like a little squirrel with his nuts. I didn't know where I put them. Well, instantly, overnight, I built a new neural pathway.
Yes, you changed the patterning. So I've said to people, even if it's like going to the cookie jar or before you're about to say something bitchy to your partner, stop, feel what you're feeling, breathe, drink some water, and do something to break the pattern. Like you have to go to the front door, open the door, close it, and turn around 3 times because that'll break your patterning. You can still choose to go to the cookie jar or say something horrible to your partner, but it makes you stop and be present with what you're doing, which is exactly what you did by going, I'm going to change what I do. I'm going to create a structure and a system that's going to empower me to not be lost and wasting time looking for things that I need on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I used to get panic struck and think, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be late. And then one day I thought, I don't have to keep doing this.
Right.
And the other thing is that I learned there was a guy on YouTube, and he was saying, start with brushing your teeth with the other hand than you usually use in the morning. And I'm like, huh? Anyway, I did. I brushed because I'm right-handed. I brushed my teeth with my right hand. I chose my left hand. I felt like it was like somebody else's hand. I could hardly get it was, and now I'm just about as good with my left hand as I am with my right. But what that taught me was I hadn't used this left hand in that way, but it's a perfectly decent, great thing that I've got is a left hand.
Yeah.
But I hadn't been using it like that. So I've learned a skill as well as the neuroplasticity and the neural pathways to wire up different. And I know it's just a simple, weird little thing, but it changed my morning routine because I was focusing on this thing. And that gave me a whole realization. What would it be like if I had a stroke and that I'm trying now to reconfigure what I'm doing? What happens for people who feel like this all the time. It made me much more mindful of people who are less fortunate that can just go da-da-da-da-da with the right. And it made me just a simple act of brushing my teeth in the morning was kind of like a big deal. It was bigger than what I'd
Well, it's
anticipated.
really important what you're saying because a lot of people aren't even aware of the thousands of thoughts. We call it monkey chatter brain going on in your brain on a daily basis. And a lot of them are self-derogatory thoughts like, oh, good one. Oh, that was really intelligent, right? You're talking to yourself like that. Or aren't you stupid? Speaking to yourself in the third person. A lot of negative thoughts going on in people's minds all the time, not just about themselves, but about others. They see others walking down the street, and there's 1,000 judgments going on in their heads, or they're looking at the negative side of everything, or they're reading the news. And then they spiral down into negativity because their head is jumbled with so many thoughts, and they're not even aware of all of that negative energy that they're putting out in the world. I hear people all the time. Once you start to do this work, you can't not hear it. It's not that I'm analyzing everybody I meet, but you hear people and their verbiage and the things that they say. I've heard mothers say to their kids, "Don't do that or I'll kill you." And I'm just like, oh my
Yeah,
God, no, you're not. Don't tell them. And my clients tell me the terrible things that their parents have said to them. And even if the parents think it's funny, well, it's not funny. It's not funny
it's not
because
funny, and
especially if
it's
it's
a cheap
something they
jibe.
say over and over and over,
Yeah,
because that goes into the child, right? It goes into the child. And if the parents talk about, there's a lot of people who know that they were a joyful accident, that their parents didn't really want them, or some parents even say that. I
yeah,
mean, I've heard just horrendous things. And then you grow up living with that. And the joy about being human is that we all have free will and we all have free choice. But what people don't realize is that the way you think about things is a choice. Being offended or not is a choice. The way you respond to anybody or anything is a choice. So the difference in being triggered when somebody says or does something that upsets you and it makes you upset and you take it personally because that's an unhealed part of yourself that can't just simply stay in alignment. And you might still see things that you don't approve of and don't like. And you can think, okay, well, I'm going to leave that with that person. I'm not going to choose to be around that person because that's ugly behavior and I don't want to be around that. But you're not going to take it personally and get offended because you're healed, and like mellow that out to not such an extreme statement at work, in relationship with your colleagues, because your boss might be that father energy and maybe you have issues with your dad, right? We're mirroring. I'm sure people have heard, oh, you mirror people. And I used to take everything literally. I was like, what does that mean? And it's the energy that you're mirroring. It might not be in the exact same way that it's manifesting, but it's our shadow parts. And if you know the feeling when you meet somebody and you just don't like them for whatever reason, you have no reason not to like them, but you could be perfectly reasonable person, but you're just like, no, don't like that person. Probably there's something about that person, or it's some karmic relationship you haven't sorted out yet, but usually it's some energetic imprint about that person that's mirroring back your own an unhealed part of yourself. So I always say that your triggers are your greatest gifts because those are the ones that make you think, oh, wow, maybe I have a little bit of work to do here on this particular subject.
And then I opened up Pandora's box, and boy, did I have a little bit of work to do. But it's good, isn't it? And Peter Crone, he's the mind architect. He's often on YouTube, and he said that the universe will bring you people, places, and circumstances to show you where you are not free.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, my main teacher, Vienna Steibel, who taught theta healing, which is the neural path work I do, she said you will often end up living in the most difficult place for you to live so that you can remember who you are. And I thought, oh, wow. So I've lived in England now almost 36 years. And the first half of that time was really difficult for me, the energy here and everything that went with it. And Spain wasn't much better when I moved over there. But now I've come back to the frozen north and I can really appreciate it because I've healed all of that stuff. And I went back to Spain recently and I to work in Spanish again, which was really exciting and it just had a whole different energy and I felt really celebratory of myself and all the work that I've done over the time because we get caught up with life and we just keep plodding along, but it's really important to stop and pat yourself on the back and give yourself some gold stars, especially if you're doing deep personal healing, self-development work in whatever modality you're going to choose. The more you can know yourself and your truth and what the core root uh, reasons for your wounding are, and to actually practice changing them, practice thinking in a new way, you can change your whole life. I've radically changed my whole life, and I have great relationships with everyone I know, particularly my children, which I'm the most happy about.
And this is it, isn't it? No man is an island. We're all interconnected and we're all part of the same one. And the wonderful thing is, if we greet and meet the world with love and abundance and joy in our hearts, that impacts so many people. And then that might impact other people that they meet. And it's just like then it becomes limitless. And it's almost like this wonderful game that how can I influence even more people with the love and abundance and joy that I have in my heart. And it's transformed my relationships 100%.
Mhm.
Because I'm kinder to myself, therefore I'm kinder to other people. I don't judge of myself, so I don't judge of other people. I'm like, wow, this so within, so without, so above,
Really
so
works.
below. It's just like it actually, to use a phrase, it actually freaking works.
Really does. And it works on much deeper levels too. I mean, there are miraculous healing stories of people, not just miraculously healing like Anita Morjani, but people who are sick, who go and do deep mind shifting work and can actually heal the illnesses in their bodies. Now, I'm not a medical intuitive, but I have helped a lot of people heal physical aspects, and you can take it to any level that you need to take it. And it's not rocket science. It makes a lot of sense, really. And if you're a medical person and holistic, then you have got the best of both worlds, because bringing science and psychology, if you want to call it that, and energy together, then you've got a really powerful, potent tool to take you forward and clear out all of the pathways in whichever one you need to focus on the most.
Shannon, I knew that this conversation would just be amazing, and it has been incredible. Listening to you is such a joy, and I've learned so much. And I know that you've given a great gift to us all. And I hope whoever listens to this and the listeners out there, Shannon is as I said, this lady has got a heart of gold. She just gives and gives and gives. And it's mind blowing to think that we can be on this journey and things don't have to be like they have been or that they are at the moment. And as you say, give ourselves a pat on the back for being where we are because we're meant to be at this point in time for a
Yeah,
reason.
absolutely.
And it's wonderful to know that there is other ways in which we can view the world and be in the world and give to the world. So Shannon, thank you. But before we go, please do tell us about this wonderful TV show that you've got
Oh,
coming up.
yes. Yay. I'm so excited. It's
I
called
know.
Beyond Birth Trauma: From Burden to Brilliance. And it's airing on transformationtalkradio.com. I think it will also go live on Facebook and YouTube, and then I'll have playback links. And first, I'm co-hosting with Dr. Pat. She created the station many years ago. She was high-level American corporate and quit at the top of her game and thought, we need a platform so that we can talk about things that really matter. I just love this woman. So we're starting just a half an hour the second Tuesday of every month, 10 a.m. Pacific time, just a half an hour to co-host with her, basically so her people can get to know me a bit. And then in the end of February, it becomes my own show. So I'll have the second and fourth Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific time, and I'll interview people and talk about their birth trauma or their wisdom. There's some there. I have a wonderful doula to interview, which is very exciting. And then we'll talk about how that how that manifested in their lives and things that we can do to help them get out of that kind of birth trauma. And then at the end of every show, there will be a live healing, a download healing. And I'm really excited because I want to help people understand that we are products of our first entry into the world and before that, and how you can connect to your ancestors and your parents in a different way and reframe things and just feel really good about who you are on this earth, change your journey, change your patterning, and be the best version of yourself that you can be, really. And then I am developing an 8-week online course called From Burden to Brilliance, which I hoped that would be ready now, but I'm really taking my time with this one. So that'll be ready in the new year. And I'll let y'all know where that's available when it is so that it will help you guide you on your journey and questions to ask yourself and your parents, etc., and work to do so that you can heal in the best way
Wow,
you can.
amazing. You know what? And this is wonderful organic elevation of what you're doing, and you will be absolutely stunning on there. I mean, it will be brilliant, and your course is going to be amazing, and everything happens in perfect timing.
It
So
really
there's a
does. It's
reason why it's going to come out when it does.
all divine.
Uh, and as somebody, and I'm very open on this show because I do believe that if I'm transparent about what's happened to me, other people might think, well, it's not just somebody making it all up. My mother told me that I was the product of a drunken New Year's Eve fumble without a condom, and that I ruined her life and her body and her career,
Oh dear.
and that she didn't want me and that she tried to get rid of me, and that now I was here, I wrecked everything. And be careful, Deborah, because we're very fertile in our family, so don't sit on any boys' laps.
Wow. So maybe you need to book an appointment with me.
That's what I
I
was going
also
to
see
say.
clients one to
Yeah.
one. I work with people one to one in person or on Zoom because energy is timeless and spaceless. And that's a 2-hour appointment. I usually encourage people to have 3 appointments so that we can really get down deep, but a lot can happen and shift on the first session. So if you really want to start to dig deep, I really encourage you to book a mind shift call with me, a 20-minute free call, just to see if you like me, if you want to work with me. Because if you don't like the therapist that you're working with, don't work with them. It's really, you've got to have a good dance with whoever's going to help you. And not everybody is for everybody. So call me up. Let's talk. Let's see if we're a good fit to work together, and then we can move from there. I talk to absolutely everybody before I work with them. You can't just book an appointment sight unseen because I don't want to waste people's time, money, and energy. Really, I want us to know that we can really get somewhere.
Yeah. Well, of the strength of what we've talked about today on this episode, which has been absolutely wonderful to hear you, there was a voice inside me saying, you've got to speak to Shannon. Because this could
It's
be the
time.
part of this journey of mine that hasn't been even focused on at the moment. And I feel that with a new year coming in, we're coming up to 2025, that actually that could be something which I always think things don't happen by coincidence. There was a reason why we talk today. And
No.
I want to tell everybody this because don't feel on your own if you don't feel wanted, that your parents didn't want you. I, for one, know what that feels like. And it takes a long time to come to terms with self-worth after that. But Shannon, I know that if you'll have me as a client, I'm sure
I
we could
think we're
do.
good, Deborah.
I'm sure we could do great things together, and
We
that's the
booked
great
a
thing.
half-hour chat one day, and I think we spoke for 90 minutes, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that, a lot of people are locked in their heads and in their thoughts. And it's fine to be cerebral. However, we are body, mind, and spirit, and we have an energy running through us. We have energy vortexes in our bodies. So I don't just work with your mind and your neural pathways, I work with your energy body and clear that out too, which is really, really important. And we clear past life things and work with the ancestral plane. So it's not just kind of normal coaching, it's really like a therapeutic coaching healing session. And it shifts you because if your body isn't running properly, if the energy in your body isn't running properly, you can't, if you're not in alignment, you can't move forward. People keep saying, I'm stuck, I can't move forward. That's because they're over here someplace. You need to be in alignment first and your energy flowing properly, and then you can move forward with ease. So why not come and just get your energy sorted out?
Well, I tell you what, if our cars didn't behave in the way that we want, we would be down that garage like a shot, saying it's spluttering, it's not doing any more than X miles an hour, it keeps on conking out on me. Fix this thing. And I'm not likening ourselves to a car necessarily, but it's a similar
Good metaphor.
principle,
It really is. It's
and if we're thinking about that as our mode of transportation to get us from A to B, we have the most incredible miracle that we walk around with every single day. And just think where that miracle can take us from A to the end of the universe. I mean, there is no Z or Z. It's just wow, the limits. It's absolutely limitless where this entity can take us. And if we're paying that much attention to our cars and mode of transport, then and you know what, the food in our supermarkets and shops all comes by that energetic flow of a vehicle moving
well, I
around
mean,
or a train moving around to get it to us. That has to be maintained. So
it's a
it's not
huge
woo-hoo. It's
umbrella. So all of
basic.
the people, you have the health food activists and you have the political activists and you have all of the activists and people with and the environmentalists, and it's all part of the whole, right? But if we don't start with this part of the whole first, and you're focusing all of your energies out there, you're not going to be fully available for anything else unless you are here first.
Yeah.
And it's like, take care of yourself first. I know selfish has become such a negative word, but if you don't take care of yourself first and your own alignment and your own health and your own mental clarity, how are you expecting to be fully available for anything else in the world? Take care of this container like you take care of your car, your
Yeah.
house, anything else you own. We're here in this container. Make the most of it.
Here, here. Well said, Shannon. Thank you so much. And for everybody listening, I hope this has been enlightening and food for thought. And please do be in contact with Shannon. She's a wonderful lady, as I said. You'll make a friend when you have a chat with her. Her energy is just unbridled. It's wonderful. And as I always say, it's lovely to have you subscribing, listening to the show. Please do spread it to your friends because my Shannon and myself, I'm sure I can speak for Shannon, if we touch one person and help their existence to be better, we're doing our job. And that's what we're here to do. So, everybody, thank you, Shannon. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. It's been so lovely to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we'll see you all again soon and carry on caring. Thanks a lot. Bye bye now.